All right, so let's go to Robert, Ricky, and Stephen Summers. Those are our next speakers. They are the co-founders of a course called Marketplace Superheroes, which we're going to tell you about, which they just started recently, and I'm learning about, and that will be one of the things that we're going to tell you about because we will promote it, and there's a reason, because it's going to make a difference for people that want to go to Europe. Together, they've created a seven-figure private label business selling their own brands in 7 countries. Now, I don't know if that's all UK countries, guys. You can share up there which countries those are, but all 100% outsourced on Amazon. So, $1 million business that they're running, 7 countries. I think you want to listen to them. In this action-packed presentation, they're going to share with us exactly how to get your Amazon business launched the right way in Europe this year. And I believe everyone can do it in this room. Yes, right, guys? Yeah, of course they can. By Christmas, so they can take advantage of Christmas sales. They do celebrate Christmas in the UK, right? Yeah, there's Christians there. You know what's funny? I actually spent 2 years in Japan. They celebrate Christmas there, and most of them are not Christians. But they do it because we do it. I even had people that were putting up Christmas trees. I'm like, oh, you guys Christian? They're like, no, we just do it because you guys do it. Well, you know what that Christmas tree? Forget it. Anyway. Get ready to learn everything you need to know and take advantage of this huge opportunity, which has the power to potentially double your Amazon business. And I know people that have expanded to other countries, and they're tripled their Amazon business, so I think doubling it is kind of conservative. They'll also share an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the software tool they've created to make sure your Amazon business, make sure your international Amazon business never runs out of stock or cash. I know, it's too good to be true, right? But so is this business. Let's bring it up. Let's bring Stephen and Ricky up, guys. Oh, seriously, if you guys don't get excited, they're not going to be excited.
Son, I'm melting.
Literally. Okay, I'll move it your way. Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? Everyone having a good day? Right. I feel like I'm at a rock concert now. It's kind of cool. I tried to become a rock star back in the day, but it didn't work out for me. So this is kind of cool. I like getting on stage. This is bringing me back to the old days. But I'm not going to sing. I hear Dave loves to sing, actually. So he might come and do a number later. Who knows? Oh, yeah, I can play the guitar. Let's get one.
There's also a guitar.
There we go. So look, we've got a whole band here. We can do something. So anyone who plays drums, let's jam. Anyway, so we're going to talk about potentially doubling your Amazon business by expanding into Europe this year. This is very much a high-level presentation. We're not going to be able to get too specific purely because when we do this presentation, we've done at a number of events. It's been 3 hours long, and this is not 3 hours long. We have an hour. So, we're going to go quick and fast. We will take some questions, and I know what the questions are going to be about. VAT, that'll be question number 1. Packaging will be question number 2. And what else we got?
Customer service will be number 3.
Customer service, translations, yeah. We're going to cover a lot of the stuff in this presentation, so let's get rocking then. So you got the clicker?
Yep.
Great. Well, welcome. So who are we? So my name is Stephen Summers. I have been selling on Amazon now for almost 5 years. I was trained by this guy over here a good few years ago. So my background, I was in college. I was trying to figure out what the hell to do. Didn't finish college and ended up working in this job that I hated. I was a data processor. So I used to put forms into a computer, which is not very exciting, as you can probably tell. And so I wanted to start a business, studied marketing and all the rest, but didn't know how to start a business. And I met this guy, and he trained me how to sell on Amazon, eBay, Play.com. We have over in the UK as well. And then we kind of, you can tell a little bit about your story in a sec.
Yeah.
So I'll just finish off by saying, taught me everything I know, scaled the business down to multiple countries, and I have to thank Robert because he's taught me a ton, and you will learn so much from this guy. He knows so much about physical products. He'll tell you a bit more about his story now.
Yeah, I mean, my background comes from distribution, wholesale, family-style business in the UK and Europe, traditionally in sort of consumer electrics. But then whenever the sort of marketplaces came to town in the UK, they're obviously in the US before that, but whenever they came to the UK, we started to sort of segue across into that and start moving online. Now, the basics of our products were always sourced in the UK, so we were buying domestic products and then reselling them. Whereas whenever we started to move into the marketplaces, we could see that there was a real demand and a real scope for importing and then private labeling the product. So I've actually been importing now for about 12 years on our own brand. And I say myself and Stephen have now then moved that about 5 years ago internationally. And it was a lot easier inside Europe to actually start that because obviously there's more countries and we're closer together. And of course, with the likes of the US market being so big, the necessity to ever move outside your own domestic market was not really necessary. However, as myself and Stephen have learned, and we're going to talk today, bringing that now across to Europe as an American company makes a lot of sense. It can actually double your business, and that's what we're going to discuss.
Yeah, so we're going to cover one specific thing that you're going to want to do taxation-wise. We're not going to get too deep into that. We do have a presentation where we do calculations and everything, but it's heavy. So we're just going to talk about stuff that can save you a lot of money as well whenever you're starting out. So as we can see here, the European opportunity, there's over 200 million European Amazon customers. In Europe, actually, as a whole, if you take the entire of Europe, there's I think it's over 700 million people live in Europe. 500 million live inside the European Union. And so, 200 million is where it is now. It's going to get a lot bigger. I mean, at the moment, as we mentioned, we sell in UK, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. However, Amazon just sent us only recently an invitation to sell in Poland and Czech Republic, right? Yeah, and that's going to be fulfilled from Germany. So it's constantly growing. And the thing is that you got to set yourself up for success in these countries. And we have, like I said, the one specific thing we want everybody to hear today, because we've known so many people who've come into the UK, for instance, with an LLC, and that's particularly troublesome for tax, and we'll explain why. But anyway, as we say, over 24 million unique visitors in Germany per month. This is from a 2013 investor report with Amazon, so it's not the most up-to-date data, but we don't have too much more data on the numbers yet. But I believe, if we just flick around, I think that we have, it's in a little bit later, but the UK is about 21 million, and I believe France is about 18 million uniques a month. So a good lot of people going to these markets, and it's going to grow over time because in places like France, Pixmania actually were the number one marketplace, but that's changing because, Amazon are dominating the world now, and with things like FBA and Prime, it's becoming bigger all the time.
I think as well in the likes of Europe, because of the nature of the sort of geographical locations, Amazon can add in more and more countries almost at will. The likes of the Polish thing that came on board, Poland's about 30 million people, and they obviously border with Germany. So every single Amazon fulfillment center down the east of Germany was able then to supply into the Polish market. And then in the south of Germany, they then border with the Czech Republic. So they were able to flick that on straight away, a little bit like what a lot of people are doing with the Mexican pilot program. As far as I'm aware, there's no fulfillment centers just yet, but they do have a lot of fulfillment centers down the south of America, of the United States, and they're able to actually supply into Mexico, so that makes a lot of sense. So then the European marketplace will only ever expand. They're talking about Holland, which would also include Belgium. So you're into about another 15, 20 million people. They're also talking about the Scandinavian countries of Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. Again, combined, they're about another 30 to 40 million people. So it's expanding all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing, it's a developing marketplace as well, which is good news for everybody here because you guys haven't gone through the training you've been through, and being some of you very experienced sellers. Most sellers in Europe are pretty crap. They're not good because they're, yeah. And the reason for it is that it's historical, especially in the United Kingdom, for instance. It is changing now because more and more people from places like ASM and our course are coming on. But what I would say is that the quality of the listings is a lot lower, and a lot of people don't have the same knowledge you have. They tend to throw up their products onto multiple marketplaces, so their website, they go to Amazon, eBay, Play.com, and all these different places. And reality is that they're not good. So with your knowledge, you should be able to succeed, quicker than most. And so also there's fewer sellers actually even using FBA at the moment. I mean, in the States now, as we all know, .com, nearly every listing non-Amazon sold is FBA at this point. Not everyone, but there's a lot. And in Europe, especially in places like the UK and that, a lot of these guys, they got these massive warehouses, lots of staff, sell on multiple marketplaces, so they can't really move to FBA as quickly as we can, which is great. So that's one thing that is definitely a big difference, but it is changing. And now is a great time to move across. And there's fewer product choices as well. I mean, it's not quite there's a ton of choices. It's not as big as .com yet, and so that's also a good thing.
I think as well, continental Europe, which sort of excludes the United Kingdom, there's so many United Kingdom sellers who don't even expand into, say, Germany and France, which is bizarre. It'll really shock people in the US, as well as not using FBA, which really, it surprises us every time we see it. So there's a massive opportunity for you.
Yeah, you're going to see now in a second when we talk about the European Fulfillment Network, just how simple it can be to actually expand. So as we said, the great thing about this is you don't necessarily need any new products as well. You just take what's working for you now, move it across to Europe, and we just need to translate listings. So we have one account to rule them all, and this is going to get into what we call the EFN, and the Unified European Account. So as we know now in the US, we have the Unified North American Account, it's called. We have Canada and United States in one account now, but you got a little saying products to Canada, but whatever. But the point is that in Europe, it's actually a lot easier because when you start out, you have this Unified European Account, which means that you've one account which houses 5 countries in one. So you have UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, all sitting inside one Seller Central account. All you have to do is select a little drop down top of the screen, choose a marketplace you want to go into, and you're in that marketplace at that point. If we just keep it rolling there, Robert, I think we probably have some stuff on the EFN.
We can actually make these slides available for everybody, so you don't
no problem.
take photographs.
Yeah, so well, we'll just keep it going because that's what I'm going on to now. So with the let's keep. Oh yeah, we've got myths as well. We'll come back to those in a second. But I'll just explain the unified account and that. So yeah, you will have that, and you will have the ability to send your stock to the United Kingdom. We always recommend starting there. And then what happens is you just translate your listings onto like a German listing, French, Italian, Spanish. And that's it. All you got to do then is link your products inside Amazon, which is really simple. It basically does it for you whenever you create the listing. You'll use the same UPC or EAN that you currently have, and it'll just say, is that what you're talking about? And you're just saying yes, you link it. And then to translate your stuff, this is all later in the presentation, but I'll do it now. You can go to translated.net. That's who we currently use. So I will circle back around to translations because a lot of people are like, what about keywords and things like that? So I'll come back to that.
I think as well, the great thing about this European Fulfillment Network, as it says there, is it's one single pool of inventory. So it's just like having your stock in one country. You can put your stock into the United Kingdom. You do not need to put your stock into Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. You can keep it combined. Then whenever a customer, let's say in Berlin, Germany, orders your product, it ships from London, England, to that customer in Germany. If somebody in Paris, France orders the product, it ships from London, England, across to the customer in France. So you don't have all your products scattered the whole way across Europe.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll come on to those myths now because I think they're good to talk about. So the first myth, and it's not really a myth, it's a real thing, but VAT is something that every US seller is terrified of. It's not particularly scary. It's just a sales tax like any sales tax we have here in different states and things like that. It's actually a lot simpler as well than in the US right now because we all know there's a lot of issues with different states and different taxes and nexus and all that kind of stuff. In Europe, it's pretty simple. It's roughly 20% is the VAT rate, and you obviously have to include it in your price. As simple as that. You pay it every 3 months to the government, and we'll come back to VAT in a second and tell you how roughly it's calculated so you know a bit about it. But also, just a quick tip, and we'll circle back, is that what we recommend is you have to and should set up, we don't have to, but you should set up a European business entity in the UK instead of bringing your LLC into Europe. And the reason for that is if you're a non-European business entity, which you are as an LLC or a Canadian limited company, the problem there is that you're going to have to pay VAT from day one. You're literally like day one, the minute you make a sale to say a UK customer, you're going to have collected that 20% of the sales price, and you've got to pay that every 3 months. Now, when you set up as a UK business entity, you get what we call a Vat Threshold. There's a Vat Threshold, which means there's a period of time when you don't need to pay any VAT at all. It's £82,000 in a financial year. That's just a quick tip. We'll come back to that anyway. So that's just something to take down.
I think as well as a bit of a warning for people who have maybe brought their LLCs across or are considering doing an LLC and bringing it across, is whenever you're actually utilizing that European fulfillment network, if you've got your stock in the UK and you make your first sale in Germany, you actually have to technically register for VAT in Germany from day one. And every single country that you would sell in, you would have to register for VAT in that country. The way around that is by having a European entity, and it clears that whole problem, takes it all away for you, and it also beats through all the red tape.
Exactly. Yeah, and so we had this other thing from the US. I don't know where this started. The invoices are needed for everything. It's not true. You don't need to send an invoice to every single customer. You'll only ever need to send an invoice to somebody if they ask you for it, basically. And then in terms of being expensive, it's a fear for a lot of US sellers. I mean, Europe, it is more expensive to sell products in Europe because of the VAT rate. It's a higher rate, but the reality is that every product in Europe is more expensive because of that, because we have higher taxes and things like that.
I would actually clarify, it's sort of like the retail price of goods in Europe is more expensive than, let's say, in the US, but actually the costs of doing business can actually be sometimes lower in certain things. FBA, for example, on the 4th of August, they just launched a whole new European-wide tariffs, which were all combined for sizes and weight distributions and things like that, so they made it all European. But the actual FBA costs on a number of weight bands is actually lower than in the US. So, you know, there's that to consider as well.
Exactly, so don't be afraid. Okay, let's keep it rocking. And so some people think with the inventory, is that going to be impossible? Well, as we said earlier on, when you start out in Europe, you're going to have your single account and you're going to use the EFN, the European Fulfillment Network. So it's actually not difficult at all in that you're shipping into one country and each order will be shipped out individually for you on your behalf as always. And then some people think, is it not just global export? Well, what is global export? I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that inside your Amazon account. This is not the same as global export, because what we're actually doing here is we're creating listings in those countries in that language and we're selling to customers. Whereas with global export, somebody might just come along to your .com listing and say, I live in Germany, I want to order that, which Amazon will ship for you, but that's the difference. So
I think realistically, why would a German customer go to .com and have to search in English for the product that they want whenever they can go to .de and type it in their own language? You know, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. And with languages and currencies, there are a couple of different currencies, but we'll give you one tip that how you can save some money on currency exchanges and things like that. But it's not that difficult when you just allow for the fact it's a different currency, and that's it. So don't be afraid of currencies and languages. I would say language is the least of your problems in Europe. It's so simple because we have Amazon who do the customer services for us as well as the shipping for us. We never really have to speak to the customer ever, so it's not a problem. And Amazon, they're okay with you using a translation tool if you do get a question from a customer in one of these other countries in a different language. Now, you will not use a translation tool for your listing, but you can use it just to speak to somebody. So there's not a problem there. We get, I would say per day, we must get like less than one message a day, I would say, across Europe. And I mean, as we know, Amazon customers are a lot more savvy than other marketplaces. Now, I will say one caveat for anybody in the beauty industry, that's just like traditionally an industry in Amazon that has a lot of questions from customers because they're asking about ingredients and things like that. But if your listing is good, you have all the information on there, you shouldn't get too many questions. And like I said, even if they ask you the question, you can use a translation tool, so it's not a big problem.
I think on that as well, a French customer or an Italian customer, they're going to ask the same questions that you've already been asked by an American customer, especially in the likes of that inside the beauty niche.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, cool. So we're going to come up with basically the process now of actually coming into Europe. So it's all these S's. So we'll go through these now. So basically the first thing we're going to do is set up a suitable business entity. As we mentioned, a UK limited company is our recommendation. They got the best VAT thresholds and things like that. If you go to somewhere like Spain, there's no VAT threshold at all. You have to pay VAT from day one. So you're no better off than if you're an LLC going in. I just want to clarify as well, on an LLC, like you're not doing anything wrong by bringing your business into Europe. It's just a lot more difficult because of the things Robert mentioned whenever you make a sale and that kind of thing. And you have to start collecting and reporting on VAT straight away.
I think as well, for no other reason than the UK, we share a common language with each other. And there's been a lot of trade between the US and the UK, so it just makes common sense that you're going to start there. You know, why would you start in a country that maybe you don't know the language, you don't know the procedures or anything like that? So there's a lot of common sense involved as well.
And a lot of people, they're really hung up on Japan at the moment on Amazon. I know it is a big marketplace, but Europe's actually a lot simpler to get started in our opinion. So anyway, you'll then create your Amazon European account, and if anybody who already has one of these with your LLC, you can ask Amazon to change it, or you can change it yourself, but generally you'll have to ask them to change it for you, we found, and it's just a matter of getting in touch and saying, I've set this up incorrectly. You set up a UK business entity, and then you can redo that inside your account. So that's the setup process, and then after that, then we're really just shipping products to the pre-Amazon location.
Yeah, we always, just to clarify that, in terms of shipping to what we call a pre-Amazon location, I would always warn against trying to ship your products directly from the US direct to an Amazon fulfillment center in the European Union for a couple of reasons. Two are the main ones, is taxation and customs. If those products have an issue because of the importer of record thing with Amazon, if you've got any issue there, you're not based in the UK, and those products can be actually stuck there, which is going to cause you a lot of pain rather than actually just taking a little bit of an extra cost and shipping it to a pre-Amazon location to make the final mile delivery. The second one is, if you're actually shipping them in, you don't really know what way your products are going to arrive. You know, if they're in a retail box, are they going to get a ding on one side, or are they going to be in some way upset by FedEx and DHL? You know, couriers are not exactly treating our boxes with kid gloves. So, you know, we got to have that as well. And whereas if we put it into a warehouse, we can have this then checked before it goes into Amazon. If it goes into Amazon, your products then end up in unfulfillable territory, which is going to cost you even more money.
Yeah, cool. So I'll keep it rocking on the next slide. Yeah, and so then really after that, it's just a matter of sending your products into Amazon as you do generally now. In the US, it's pretty much the same thing. Only one slight difference in that in the US at the moment, with the preferred Amazon carrier, they'll bring in pallets or boxes for you. In the UK at the moment, though, the boxes are fine. I think pallets, you mentioned, they're on the way, aren't they?
The pallets are coming in, but
they're
not just in at the minute. So we've obviously got logistical contacts for you who can ship your products anywhere in the UK, but also into Europe whenever you actually move into that stage.
Yeah, and I think really the point here is that it's very similar to what you're already doing. It's the same Amazon account. It's all the same kind of stuff. Only difference is the few little things we talked about with business entities and that kind of stuff, which is very, very important at the same time. But I just want to kind of stress that it's not that difficult. And so then we've already gone through all these, so we'll just ring these on. Just keep going, Robert, right through all those. It's fine. We'll go to the next section. So the European Fulfillment Network, this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier on. As I say, I just mentioned that you have this little drop-down menu. You'll choose your account. They do operate independently in that, let's just say, and touch wood, that something happened to one of your accounts in, say, Germany, it was suspended or something like that. They do operate independently, so your entire Amazon account would not be suspended if that happens, just that country. But again, let's hope that doesn't happen to anybody. And again, one stock source, so it's simple. And so, as we say, one business entity, one seller account, one inward shipment, one outbound stock source, one management approach. It's all the same stuff.
The other thing about the UK in terms of fulfillment centres, or whenever we're talking about a one inward shipping system, because of the geographical size of the United Kingdom is tiny in comparison to the continental US, you do not, generally speaking, have to ship to more than one fulfillment centre. You know, the likes of the US, you may have to ship to 3 with one particular stock item, whereas in the UK, you will generally ship to one fulfillment center. So that's always beneficial as well.
Yeah, okay. Yep, so we'll keep it. So yeah, again, we just wanted to show, again, this is literally from Amazon, just to show the only real difference is whenever it's the language thing, it's the Amazon dealing with your customers in their own language. No big difference there at all. So don't worry about any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think we're going to come on to the next section now where we're talking about, well, the fact that it's an open playground. See, again, I cover all these things early in the presentation and I wreck myself because I get excited about the later stuff. But basically that's just mentioning what we said earlier on, that these sellers are not as good and that kind of thing. So that's that.
Do you want to take a break and see if anybody's got any questions on
I think it's a good time to
on
take
those
some
points
questions.
that maybe we didn't cover clearly?
Yep. Yes, sir. Go ahead. You want to take it? Yep.
So first, great presentation, and thanks for coming as
Thank
far
you.
as you guys did. So what sells in the US might not necessarily sell in the UK, what sells in the UK might not sell in Germany. So we're just kind of getting off the ground doing product research. Are there any tools, you may or may not know the answer, but
Sure.
are there any tools that you guys know of that where we could do granular research on a per country basis to kind of see what sells, what's resonating, what's not, that sort of thing?
I would actually use Amazon because you are selling on Amazon, so therefore it's the best method, it's your best tool to actually use. I would also say that cultural products are the ones that you would have difficulties with. So let's say you sell baseball bats. They're obviously not going to sell in the UK or Germany, whereas they'll sell in the US.
Or American flag.
And then you also have cultural things. Using Japan maybe as a bad example, but it's cultural to ride bicycles rather than drive cars, so therefore the bicycle market would be better than the cars.
Makes total sense. I think
Sure.
maybe where I was going was maybe more like technical analysis, because we use like a tool like Merchant Words, which shows pay-per-click.
Yeah, you can do Merchant Words in the UK. It's available for .co.uk. I was speaking to the CEO a little while ago, and he said they're working on bringing in German, French, all the different countries at the moment into Merchant Words. We're speaking hello.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's on the way. It's not. So .co.uk is there, but the other countries aren't there just yet.
But they're like Google Trends for specific
absolutely.
countries too?
Yes,
You could, but again,
you
when
go
you
by country.
Yeah, when you get into different languages, though, that can become a little bit tricky. It's not that hard. You just use your keyword. You can find there's many ways of finding keywords in Europe, but generally, whenever you've had your listing translated, you'll know the keywords that you're trying to shoot for, and you can just put those into Google Trends or whatever you want to do and see. But as Robert said, in our experience, we can only talk from our experience. We just use Amazon to research all the time, and if it's already selling for you in .com, as long as it's not, as Robert says, like a cultural thing, or like paper is a good example. There's different sizes of paper we have in Europe to over here. If there's not a problem there, and we have a whole section in our course about localizing and stuff like that, but the point is that really you should just put some across. It's not going to cost a whole lot of money, so it's pretty cost effective.
I also would just add, I wouldn't overthink it. If you go into a Walmart store here in the US and you go into, let's say, a similar store like an Asda or a Tesco in the UK, the products are generally the same. We're not that different over there. I know we speak funny, but we're not
very
really
similar.
that different. And
don't bite.
I know a lot of people like to say that, you can use this and use that, and they sprinkle some magic dust on it. And the answer that people don't like to hear is, no, don't overthink it. There's a few things that I say we will point out, likes of electrical items. That's problematic because you guys have a different plug to us, and also the United Kingdom has a different plug to, say, Germany. So there's a few things that we would say to avoid, but in general, I wouldn't overthink it.
Yeah, that's what Dave said earlier on. He was talking about, keeping it simple. That's definitely good advice. Okay, next question. We'll take one here
My question was
first.
about setting up the European entity. Where do we do that, and what kind of fees are associated with that?
Sure.
You can actually speak to us if you want. There are a number of different companies out there who will set up entities for you. My sort of thing with, I've spoke to a lot of US sellers, is that you kind of want somebody to work with you throughout the year. You don't just want to go to an online company that sets up your limited company and then they wave goodbye to you. You want to be able to actually have a contact with what we use as accountants. So we actually have it, so you can pay by the month, and your accountants are actually working your business entity as you go on. And I would definitely recommend that. Accounting in the UK and Europe is more expensive than it is in the US. It's actually about double the price. But for having an entity inside Europe that you can effectively double your business for by having it outsourced for a relatively low fee, I think everybody would take that all day of the week.
Yeah,
Can they even handle like the pre-fulfillment handling the...
Yes, we actually have warehousing facilities as well. And there's a number of different people out there. You wouldn't just have to use ourselves. There's a number of different companies. But we can certainly put you in touch with our guys.
Yep. All right. Yes, sir.
When it comes to language, with all the different languages in Europe, how does it affect your listing and your packaging?
Yeah, so with the listing, what you're going to do there is, as I mentioned, you're going to have each independent Amazon account in there, and all you're going to do is you're going to get it translated with translated.net. That's what we recommend, and that's the listing sorted. It's going to be in its home language. In terms of the packaging, it all depends. Like, loads of people do things very differently. If you've got particularly high-end packaging, it's very beautifully designed, stuff like that, you may have to make some adjustments. But when you're starting out, I would recommend two things. One, if you're doing what Dave was talking about earlier on with a simple packaging, you can just do what we call multi-faced boxing, which means that you would have, say, like the English here, you might have German on the back, you might have French on the side, or whatever the case may be. And then your instructions, I would highly recommend obviously getting those translated as well, especially if your product requires a lot of instructions to do, because you'll find that and I'll be honest, we made all the mistakes, and whenever we started out 4 or 5 years ago, we didn't have, say, German instructions and so German customers would be like, I don't know how to use this thing, so we had to send them PDFs and all that horrible stuff. So that'll save you a lot of time. So that's that. Yes, sir.
But it also poses a bit of a problem with the logistics. Like, you're dealing with so many different countries. How many you got to be tailoring the boxes or whatever?
What you talking about, like when you're shipping? But the nice thing about it is that, as we mentioned, when you're starting out, you're only going to send all your inventory to one country, which is going to be the UK, and then Amazon will ship that to each customer in each different country as they order it from the UK. Now, over time, you are going to move into what we call MCI, which is multi-country inventory, but that is whenever you've hit a certain level of sales in each individual country. I'm not going to get too much into that today because it's a little bit too advanced, but basically, over time, you will actually send stock to Germany, you will send it to France, eventually, but you won't start that way, so it's very easy to get started. And once you get to that point, our tool that hopefully we'll have time to show you a little bit about today, that actually will tell you how many you need to send to each country, and it'll track your sales. It knows how long it takes to get your product into stock, so it'll basically tell you what to send and when to send it.
I think as well, in terms of your initial packaging, as Dave mentioned, keep it simple to start off with. And you've also got to put yourself in the shoes of the customer that's buying it. They've gone on to Amazon in Germany and they've bought the product. So whenever it arrives, it's not a shock to them. They're not expecting, oh, what's this? It's just arrived in through the door. So they know what they're getting. They're aware of it. And you can utilize certain, I would say, tactics which you can use, like instruction manuals. At the very start, all of your instruction manuals are going to be in English. So it's not going to be easy for you to immediately change those into all languages, but you can certainly change them into, let's say, a PDF, which you can then send to your customer post-sale. So that kind of can get you around the instruction end of things, which is traditionally what will maybe, seal the deal with your customer. I don't ever think that they're expecting to see the packaging be in their language. It's more the product and the operation of it.
Yeah, and it all depends what way you're running the business to. Again, like, so many people run their Amazon businesses differently. And what I would say is that if your brand is the thing, because I know a lot of people here are growing a particular brand, that's something you may want to get changed over time, as I said, but I wouldn't worry about it when you're starting out. And anyway, you can't actually account for all these different languages when you start in Europe, because you're using the EFN, the European Fulfillment Network. You've one source of stock, like one pool of stock, so Amazon can't differentiate, oh, that's a German packaging, we should send a German one. They can't do that. So that's why we say keep it simple at the start. So next question, sir.
That's basically how a listing looks in German. So it's no different, really, just in a different language.
Yep.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for coming to the Kettner team today.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. My question is just a basic one. So let's say for here, the American market, you have just a $20 product, right?
Yep.
And so I understand the 20% for the value-added tax. So
Yep.
let's say that's about 22. What other rough fees are we looking at? In other words, what would we sell it for?
I would also never, ever directly translate your pricing, your retail pricing. So, don't, as you mentioned, there are different styles of fees and different values. So in other words, a $20 product will not immediately become a £13 product or a €16 product. I would go back to basics, and redo it. We do actually have our tool which you can look up, and I would always apply the same things that you do in the US. So you have Amazon fees. Right. They are traditionally exactly the same. So whatever category you're in the US, you'll be in the same one in Europe, and the percentage will be the same. So it's 15%, let's say, home and garden. That's the same in the EU. Your FBA fee will be slightly different. It will not be an exact replica of the US, especially because as well, you guys are still using those pounds and ounces and all that sort of jazz, where we've moved on. We've got the metric system. I'm going to be in dangerous territory here, I think.
Yeah, right.
So you've got all the US stuff will be in pounds and inches, whereas we're in kilograms and centimeters. So the bands are slightly different, but similar. I would utilize our tool. You can put in your cost pricing in, and it will tell you exactly the fees.
Yeah, and one more thing on that as well is that we found in countries like France and Germany, their economies they're good economies, like especially Germany. So you'll find that we actually get a premium on a lot of our products in Germany, for instance, so we can sell it for obviously a lot more than we can in other countries. So that can be a possibility too, which again, you wouldn't have had that if you just translated your price across. But again, I know we're kind of banging on about our tool a little bit, but to be honest, it makes it just so simple. Instead of using spreadsheets and all as we used to do, we'll come to that in a second. We've got a little bit of time left, so
we can also send you all the rate cards, and you can work it out yourself if you want. Not a problem.
Yeah, and you can go to just the homepage of .de and scroll down, and you'll see the sell on Amazon, and you can get all your rate cards there too. Okay?
Thank you, guys.
Sure.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
Wonderful. We're really interested in this. Again, I know I don't want to be redundant, but the approximate cost to form a limited company in the UK?
Well, actually, a limited company doesn't really cost you any money to set up. If you go to one of the online guys, as an international company, you'll probably pay around 700, 800 sterling. So about $1,000.
Right.
However, to me, they're actually making money off you for no reason, because whenever our accountants set up a limited company, it costs them time. That's it.
That's it.
Because you're over here, you're not in the UK, it can be difficult for you. Yeah. But again, if you utilize our guys, they will set that up as part of a deal. But if you're going to do it for a separate company or a separate service, about $1,000.
Okay. And then getting the listing up that's just the beginning. We launch our product very carefully with specifically looking for reviews and
utilize exactly the same strategies as you do in .com for Europe. Exactly the same.
Yeah, we don't have those friends and family though in the European market. We don't have our database is here.
To be honest, I totally understand. What I would say is we're not always the best guys to ask about that, and I'll tell you why. Because we've never seen, and I'm going to just pitchforks coming from me and I say this, but we've never really seen a massive correlation between reviews in the type of products we sell now, which is home and storage and that kind of thing. Never seen a massive correlation with lots of reviews with massively increased sales for what we sell. I know that can change in different categories. So for us personally, we don't ever ask for reviews at all. We never do.
So we go for an initial push of sales.
Yeah, and again,
it is. I think it's done a lot more in .com because there's so many more people doing it. Okay. That's the way they do it. In the EU, it doesn't tend to be done like that, and you're actually in the same boat as everybody else.
Totally.
Your product has a demand out there, and the natural organic traffic that's there are the ones that's going to buy your product.
It's so different to .com as well, though.
As well?
To see it with .com, .com is really competitive. Obviously, there's still tons of opportunity in .com. There is. Our business is growing all the time in .com. But in Europe, there's just not as many people selling. So you will find that a lot of the strategies you utilize, as I mentioned earlier, when you use them, they're very effective. But ultimately, I honestly wouldn't worry too much about your initial reviews. I just wouldn't worry about it.
So much effort into product launch.
The other thing is,
it does work, but I'm just saying in Europe, I wouldn't worry too much when you're starting.
Sorry. The other thing is, whenever you actually bring across your listing from the .com across to .co.uk, your reviews will not be numbered, as in they will not show as 54 reviews. However, they are there.
They are there.
You can see them.
Oh, okay.
And because of the shared language, It's available in .co.uk. It will not be in the other European countries simply because it's a different language. So therefore the reviews would have to be in German or French. So it's organically growing, but you can still do the same styles of strategies.
I was asking the same question about the launch. What, like, if you have a specific product launch that you use in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, you can...
And just natural...
Yeah, I mean, we've always done it organically. I know that's not the answer that most people want to hear. You know, people want to hear, oh, you go to this website and this does it this way. It's just a slight difference. You know, that's a slight difference culturally. You can, of course, go in and buy databases if you want. They do exist. There are people out there that will do reviews and things like that. They do exist. We haven't used them, so I wouldn't want to advise you on that.
And you can also drive traffic with traditional, paid traffic sources like Facebook and Google and things like that. If you want to do that, if you can make it profitable for your business, you can still do that in Europe. Like, it's just a language difference, that's all. So, but we just don't, honestly, you'd be amazed with how fast your products can actually scale in Europe, purely because of the fact it is not .com. It is not as competitive as .com. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Is there any such thing as Amazon Prime?
Yes, absolutely. Amazon Prime is very big, and it's one of the main things. It's actually a little different to .com in that Amazon Prime in .co.uk is actually a next day delivery service. I know it's different, a little bit different here. So it's huge, and it's growing all the time.
Okay. And the other question was, how does it work in terms of bank?
Yeah, Robert, do you want to cover banking?
Banking, a very common question. Here's the news that you don't want to hear. Your eventual goal will be that you want to have a UK business bank account attached to your UK entity. That's what it is. You will unfortunately, more than likely, have to be in the UK in person, physically, to do that at a bank, actually in person. However, between you setting up and that happening, you can have your UK business bank account in the US or in Canada. There is no problem doing that. It's completely legal. There is no legal requirement from the UK government that you have to have a United Kingdom-based bank account. It just has to be an international account that can make international payments. So you may have to pay the UK government some taxes, some VATs, things like that. So you have to have the operation to be able to get the money to them. Whenever you go to your branch here, it will be difficult because it's not commonly done. And you will have to ask them questions. If you get the person at reception, they will tell you it's not doable. The computer says no. You're going to have to re-ask them a few times and say, can I speak to the next person up the chain? And so on. You will possibly require such things as apostils and certain documents that you may have to get from your UK company provided to the bank. I'll not tell you any word of a lie. It is a difficult operation, but it can be done.
Yeah.
That's the honest answer.
Yeah, but again, if you do have to say, we had to fly to the US years ago and we set up our Amazon.com account. Reality is that, that one little trip has paid us back a ton, and also it's tax deductible because it's a business trip. So, happy days. So it's not a big deal, right? The
other thing as well is by actually starting with a UK company, you will save $15,000 in taxes straight away.
Yeah, I think
in your first year.
What we're going to do is we're going to jump onto the VAT after we finish these, and we'll do that then.
So
I think.
To spend 2,000 of that 15 to fly to the UK and get an account, I'd buy that for $1.
Yes. Okay. So we'll just go ahead, sir. Sure.
So you may touch on it because of the VAT. It was a question financially.
Got
it. I live in Mexico. Everything there, it's not VAT. It's called IVA, IVA tax.
Yep.
But everything is tied to the factura, which is a invoice, for lack of a better description.
Yep.
You mentioned no invoicing needed.
So all I mean there is that whenever you sell your products to European customers, there was some weird rumor going around some forums that you'd have to send every customer an invoice, like an actual tax invoice. You don't have to do that, is all I was saying. You only have to send out and say, like, a business may want the receipt from you, like an actual vatable receipt. You send it to them at that point.
Now, is Amazon collecting the VAT and then they're...
No, you will. You will sell it, and then you see, we'll come on to VAT in a second. You'll see you actually don't have to collect it for a period of time, but when you do have to, it's up to you to do it, not up to Amazon. They don't have that capability. Okay?
What's my...
Yeah, you've got the three things. Reporting.
You collect it, or you charge it, you collect it, and then you report on
That's
it.
right. And you'll see, like, you don't just pay that 20%. It's a little bit complicated, but we'll show you, like, you take away your purchases in your business from that, and that's what you actually pay. And you'll see it in a second. Yes, sir.
I had a question about keyword research.
Yeah.
So whenever you're switching different languages, for example, if you had a barbecue grill brush,
Sure.
but in Germany they called it a fire pit scrubber.
Yes.
Yep.
So how do you do the keyword research?
Yeah.
I would actually utilize whenever you're doing your translation. So not just do, and it's a very useful tip, it's a good question, is whenever you're doing your translation, you have obviously your title, you have your bullet points, and you have your descriptions. I would also include there the keywords that you're going to use in English or American English, and also anything that you're going to use back-end keywords or even for PPC, I would include that and get them translated. We were just speaking earlier on, exactly the same point as you do. In the UK, we would call something that you hang a television up on, we would call it a bracket. You guys call it a mount. In France, they actually call it a support, translated into French. And in Germany, they call it a hanger. So things like that will be, the way to do it is doing it inside your translation.
Yeah, and there's also what I do as well. These are not perfect answers because I know you're thinking, is there another tool? And at the moment there isn't, like, but it doesn't actually matter that much because it's a lot easier to rank in Europe at the moment. So what I also do is when I get my translation through, I take the main kind of keywords in the translation and I then paste them back into Amazon again, and I then use the suggestion tool, see what other people are calling it, retranslate that back and Google Translate, whatever, to make sure it makes sense. And that's a great way to find a lot more keywords as well. And just looking at competitors and seeing what they have in their listings, I always look at the best sellers, popularity, and I see what keywords they're using, and I utilize those back into my listing again. That's what I would do.
So do you outsource that to someone who actually speaks the language, or do you just
we use
suffer through it?
translated.net. Translated.net. That's
even
who
to do
translates
that research part and everything?
No, we would tend to do that in-house. That
Just
part,
wing it?
the last
You just
part.
wing it?
Yeah, we do that ourselves, in-house, but we use translated.net to translate the actual listing. Okay? And actually, that's a good idea for a service we can put in place for you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into VAT just now, so if these are any VAT questions, we're going to just cover it now, if that's okay. If it's a different kind of question, you can ask away now.
It's regarding promotion.
Sure.
This has been addressed a little bit before, but you were saying people, like in the US, we have to promote to get our BSR up to get sales,
Okay.
But I hear you guys saying that you don't do that, so surely there is a BSR. Is there a BSR in...
Yes, it's all the same. There's BSRs, yes.
So if you're just doing it organically and you're not doing promotions, how do you get sales then when you're just starting out?
Yeah, we would tend to use, obviously, Amazon sponsored products. Same thing, it's in Europe, we use that. Also, optimizing our listing, but also it comes back to how we find a product in the first place sometimes. We have a specific kind of way we look at it. Everybody looks at it differently, but overall, I don't think it's as big an issue as you think in terms of BSR and ranking and growing. We've done it all organically with our products. That's what we've done. You can use all the same methodologies you're using now here in Europe. Let's say you're buying traffic or whatever the case may be. You just bring that same process across. But we personally don't do that. We just organically rank for all our products, and they grow over time.
I would also look at it like this. In the US market, if you've got a product that you're bringing to market and there's 30 other people selling that product, I can understand that you don't want to be the 31st and have it sitting there and have to wait, because it could take forever or it may not happen at all. However, if that was only 2 products or 3 products that you're up against, then the likelihood of being found first page up there with a better listing, better pricing, a better value product, you're going to get sales straight away. You're not up against the same competition as there is in .com. If you go on and you look for a yoga mat, everybody loves yoga mats, and if you have them in the US, there is tons of them. Whereas the product, if you go on to .de or Spain or things like that, there's just not the same level of competition.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to just bounce on to VAT now, and then after that, we'll just give you a quick second, show you a little bit about the tool we have. There's no sales pitches or anything like that. Don't worry. We just want to show you what it looks like just so you can see it. So with VAT, the HMRC are the government body in the UK to take care of VAT. And like we mentioned, it does differ to US style sales tax in the price, in how much it is, the percentage and things like that. Price is always shown to the customer inclusive of VAT. I know it's inclusive of sales tax here in the US as well, but what you'll notice is, just so you guys know, whenever you come to Europe, what's different is that we don't have like a price plus sales tax like you have here in the US. We just sell something to somebody for $5 or whatever. We don't say $5 plus tax in Europe. That's just a little aside for you. So that's that. So as we mentioned, it's 20% pretty much across the board. Each different country has a different VAT rate, which doesn't actually matter when you start out because you're going to be using a UK-based company, and it's 20% in the United Kingdom. Whenever you have to register for VAT in the other countries way down the line, that'll change ever so slightly, but they're roughly about 20%. So that's about the way to look at it. And the way to calculate how much VAT is in your price is you take the price, you divide it by 1.2, takes it down by 20%. You don't multiply it by 0.2 as some people would think you would do, and that's going to give you the VATable amount with the product.
For example, if you've got a product that sells for £20 sterling, the VAT is not £4. It's actually £3.33. Because you calculate down. So the price would be $16.67 plus tax. So it becomes 20.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how we calculate VAT. So I'll briefly explain this because it's a little bit complicated, just so you guys know. You don't have to worry about this stuff too much because, we're all going to be using CPAs and things like that in Europe. We're not going to be doing this ourselves necessarily. And also, not to bang on about it, but with the tool that we have, it actually will calculate your VAT for you, so you don't have to calculate that kind of stuff.
I think as well, if you always think of VAT as a tax on the consumer, that's the last person in the chain. They're the only ones that pay the full amount. Basically, if you're buying product or you were buying computers and reselling them, if you bought them in the UK, you would be charged VAT, and then you would charge VAT on your sales price, and the difference is in between. That's what you owe.
Yeah, exactly. So just you take all your purchases that you'll have collected VAT on, all your sales. You take all your purchases then that you actually bought as a business, and they have VAT included in them. You take what you've collected minus what you've paid out, and that's how much you're going to have to pay in every 3 months. So we're not going to get too much into that, but that's just so you guys know.
And the reason why it applies to you is because you would automatically think, well, I'm not buying anything in the UK, so therefore that won't apply. However, you are technically buying the stock that you're going to put into Amazon. So if you're bringing your stock from the Far East or from America, whenever it actually comes into the UK, it's technically a purchase.
Yeah, and so as we mentioned earlier on, where you'll save money on your VAT is we have what we call a threshold, as I mentioned earlier on, which is £82,000 in a year. As long as you've got a UK-based entity, you're going to be able to sell right up to £82,000 across every country. So all 5 countries will all go into that initial $82,000, and after that, then you will only then have to register for VAT. So if you do it that way, you will save. Well, you know the figures. It's what, $15,000.
$15,000 in your first year. Exactly. Also, another little caveat is if you don't hit your threshold in the first year, of course, you want to be doing more business than 82,000 in a year, but as you're growing, if in your first year you do less than 82,000, you get the threshold again for the following year. So in essence, you may be able to save $30,000.
Yeah, which is nice. And the reason you'll register for VAT in the other countries over time is what we call distance selling, whereby if you're selling something to a German person and Amazon are shipping it from the United Kingdom, you're making sales in Germany, obviously. And what happens is when you hit €100,000 in a 12-month period in Germany, that would then activate you having to register for VAT in that country. So that's down the line. Don't worry about that when you're starting out because you're only going to have a UK-based entity. I just wanted to let you know where you're going to go to. So that's that. Cool. I think we're pretty much at the end now. I mean, because this is all the rest of it here. We've already kind of touched on already with EFN and MCI. If you want to just jump ahead, Robert, and give people a look at the tool, maybe.
Yep.
That would be a good place to go because we've pretty much gone through everything. Only thing I would say.
Actually, there is a couple of bits that are useful to remember because it's obviously we have talked about currencies.
You were talking about bank account as well.
It's localizing.
Yeah.
There's a few bits in localizing that definitely the likes of metric and imperial systems. So if you've got a product and something in your title or your description is weight-based or size-based, remember to put it into the metric system whenever you're doing your listings, because nobody will understand what those particular things are. As well as English that is used here is not identical to what is used in the United Kingdom. As we all know, all the different words and things. You know, all you've got to do is go around a car and you've got, you know, the trunk versus the boot, a fender versus a bumper, a hood versus the, you know, every single part of it almost is all different. So it's always good, almost sometimes, to translate your American English into international English. So that can certainly help as well. And the way I look at you know, the translation end of things, it's almost like product photography. You know, you do it once right,
yeah,
and it's with you forever. So a lot of people think, oh, it's expensive, it's an added cost. It's not really. It's a cost of doing business.
It's only about, yeah, but $200 will get your product translated into 4 or 5 languages. It's not expensive. Obviously, if you've got 1,000 products, it can become expensive quickly. But I mean, you know, if you're just starting out, you don't have to translate everything at one time. So again, as we mentioned, translated.net is what we use. Highly recommend you use that. And we will have other alternatives to this over time that we're developing ourselves. We're going to have our own team of translators eventually who'll take care of this stuff for us. There's lots of other companies out there who can do this as well. I just recommend Translated because the nice thing about it is they quote you how much it's going to be. Always go for the professional option, which is the option in the middle. The nice thing is that you don't have to pay for it up front. You only pay for the translation whenever you're happy with it. Whenever it's come back, you've seen it, you know, so it can become quite useful that way. You're not paying all this money up front straight away.
Also, all of your accounts, as it says there, can be managed in English. So even though you can go into the German account, you can just automatically move that into English. You don't have to start learning a load of different languages.
Yeah, cool. So we'll just cycle through and make sure because it's just, this is a much longer talk. Yep. We can't obviously go through it all in this one. Right, okay. Yeah, we mentioned paper already. Cool. Yeah, we've already talked about that. Robert's already talked about the fact that these fees are similar, but they can be different as well. So yeah. Okay, Robert?
Yep, cool.
So we're going to take a look at accelerator tools now. This is something we developed for ourselves initially, but we've shared obviously now with everybody else who's working with us. And really it does a lot of different things. The first thing that it does, as we mentioned in the introduction there, is that it looks at your sales volume. At the moment we look at it over every 2 weeks. The reason we do that is we call it term, because Amazon pays us every 2 weeks. And we then look to get a run rate, as in how many products are we selling, how many units are we selling in a 2-weekly period. We also are able to look at how long it takes to get our product from source, be it China, US, into Europe or the US. And we're able to look at our sales volume. From our sales volume from the past, we can kind of predict out the future, roughly accurately. I mean, you can't really predict anything, I guess. And then you also are looking at how long it takes to get the product into stock. So we're able to tell you fairly accurately how many units you need to order from your supplier and when you need to order them by to make sure you don't run out of stock, because we're monitoring your sales for a long, long period of time. That's essentially one of the things it does. And we can do other things as well. We have in here as well, which, we can ship products from China into UK or into US as well. You can order all these different things from the tool. So like I say, we just wanted to show you what it looks like today. It's not like, we're not going to be like, meet me at the back of the room and I'll sell you all this stuff or anything like that. It's just so you can see it.
Well, we will see it if I can get the password right.
All right. It's all this vacationing we've been doing, you see, it's just made our brains a little bit soft, so that's what's happening. He's in.
Cool. We do have an area here where you can actually go in and start, categorizing your research and things like that, so you can keep it all together, all in one tool. But realistically, the bones of this is whenever you get into your, what we call product profile. So as we can see, I've got some dummy data in here, and whenever we go across, we can see, we can open up all different countries. I've just got the United States, United Kingdom and Germany plumbed in here. You can open up all the rest of them as well. And we can go in and we start tailing our product we start telling the tool about our product. So we tell it our packaging dimensions. As you'll notice, that's in metric as well, but you can convert it. And we tell it all about the product in terms of sizes, weights, things like that. We can also hold in barcodes and all different stuff. We also then tell it what category that it sells in. And what the system can then do from there, we also have areas for storing your graphics and things, just to keep it all collective, as well as your listings in all different countries. It's always good to keep them all together, especially if you've got something that you've been translated into 4 different languages. You want to keep it somewhere safe and organized. You don't want to have it scattered over a drive or on a machine. So we have...
Yeah, and a bigger use of that over time will be, we want to get it to the point whereby when you put in your listing details, let's say for .com or whatever, there'll be a little button that just says translate, and we'll be able to get it translated into multiple languages from our own team at the back, who will then re-put that back into the tool for you, so you get everything translated inside here. That's what we're working on at the moment as well.
So what the system then does is it's actually able to calculate whether your product is standard size or standard size small, standard size medium, oversized, large, whatever it may be, and it will then tell you the FBA fee that you're going to be charged that whenever they ship that out. So it knows then, and that's just not for one country, it's completely international. So whenever you have your product here, you've told it the sales price, it can actually then work out your exact profit, because it knows what price you're selling it at, it knows your fees associated, it knows your FBA fee, and it can even also know how much it's going to cost you to get that product from your supplier, let's say in China or the US, actually into stock at a fulfillment center. So it knows every single thing about your product for you and can calculate exact profits, percentages, and all this sort of thing. Then whenever you have this here, this is obviously the US market, it's dummy data, but all you do is you click the United Kingdom, and it now tells you exactly what the FBA fee is for that particular country as well, and then recalculates your profit now based on that. Again, you can move across into Germany, and it recalculates again and tells you everything about that particular product in Germany. So you can see everything that you have here on one screen. You can keep all your listings together. We then, obviously, if we know the profitability of the item, and we know how many that we're selling, we can actually then start to forecast out things such as how much money will you actually be paid out by Amazon. Because if we know what you're selling it at, we know what Amazon's fees are, and they're going to take that off a point of source. We know how many we're going to sell across all our inventory and across all our markets. Then we can actually calculate what we call an RVF, a realized value figure, which is what Amazon will pay you out. Obviously, as you know, if you sell something for $20, you don't get $20 back.
Yeah, and because we're forecasting into the future as well, you're going to be able to see what you will have in Verticom as cash flow wise as well. We have a whole cash flow segment in the software as well that literally you can upload your purchases in your business. You can also have your sales in there as well, and you can actually see down the line if you're going to have a cash flow issue, especially as your products start to grow and scale. That can become an issue for a lot of businesses, especially if your product's scaling faster than the cash you have available even after profit, and the tool does all that.
So the system can actually show here down the right-hand side of the screen that when you have a product, it starts to know what you're going to be selling. It starts to forecast, as Stephen says, and it can say, here are what are the items that I'm going to sell 100 in the next 2 weeks. The reason why it says 100 is because it knows that I've only got 100 in stock, and therefore it knows I cannot sell any more than that, and it's now showing me that I'm going to be out of stock in the future. And we can then use this data to actually start forecasting when we should order. So we have what we should order, how many we should order, and where we should be sending it to, because you're now going to have an international business. It's not just going to be one country. So it's very
I just wanted to mention as well, if you did just want to use it for .com, it works perfectly fine. You don't have to use it for every country.
Yep, so we can obviously have units, we have values, we have profits, and everything like that. We can also then, moving on from that, we can put on our orders that we're going to be ordering with our suppliers, so we know when it's going to come in. The system will then know when it's going to arrive in the fulfillment center, so it then knows when I'm going to actually sell it. Whenever we put that on, it also starts to track how long it takes your product to get into stock in Amazon from a supplier. Because as me and Stephen used to do, we used to sort of hold our finger up in the air and go, it'll take us about 90 days to bring this product in from the Far East. However, it's never 90 days. You know, you always hit delays, it becomes out, and then you become starting to guess the number of days, whereas this actually tells you exactly when you place the order and when it hit.
Yeah, so there's something else that Robert will show you in a second. It's called opportunity cost. We look at that very closely in our own Amazon business. And the scary thing about it is before we had this tool, we actually made a lot of errors in our own business back in the day. When we were trying to forecast this stuff, we weren't allowing enough days. We thought it would come in faster than it did, so it would invariably sell out. And we would be still waiting on the stock because we didn't know when it was going to arrive. We were not calculating it correctly. So what actually happened was over a course of a 3-year period, we calculated that we had an opportunity cost of about $1.5 million over 3 years. About $500,000 a year in lost revenue back in a long time ago. So that'll show you just how, and that was when we were ordering from the UK as well. So that'll show you how much you can actually lose, obviously, if your stock runs out. So it's critical that no matter if you use this or whatever you use, and forecasting is critical in your Amazon business, and obviously looking at your cash flow as well is vital.
So from our orders, we can actually then go on, if we want to, we can go on and book shipments. So we can use the system to ship our goods either from the US across to Europe or from China to Europe, China to the US, UK to the US, whatever. It's all actually built into the system. You can get quotes from freight forwarders or shippers or things like that, and people who will then customs clear your goods and all the rest. So the whole system's actually all joined up. Also in here, Stephen mentioned we have a cash flow thing we can't really go into at the minute, but it'll take too long. But also you have your full office accountancy built in as well, so you can actually upload your bank statements, start accounting, bookkeeping, which then goes on to your accountant, and therefore you're saving yourself money on that end as well.
Yep, so that's a tool. I mean, we could be all day talking about it, and we will certainly not do that because we don't have all day. We're just actually about to finish here now. So we're going to be around afterwards. If anyone wants to ask any questions, we're happy to answer them. Yeah, we're going to Holiday Inn, right? That's where we're going to. Oh yeah, you want to buy it? No, sure. Yeah, well we can sort it out. We'll talk to Dave and we'll get it together.
No sales pitches. We're Irish, you see.
Yeah, no, we just wanted to share stuff today. It wasn't about selling. But look, we have got the software. We have logistics sorted in Europe. We've also got your accounts in Europe as well. We can connect you with all those people. It's kind of scary because we're almost building about 4 companies now in one, in that we're actually going to be building our own logistical kind of network ourselves over time, as well as we're going to try and bring in our own in-house accountants as well, because we're working with the teams at the moment. It's working out well, but we're trying to build it for scale. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of really cool things happening with this in the future. But we can talk to Dave and we can put something together for everybody, no problem at all.
Also,
okay?
If anybody has any questions later on, we're going to be about. Just grab us and we'll answer whatever you need to know.
Yeah, we'd happily do we can do a webinar or something to help out as well. Whatever you guys want, we can do it for you. Okay, well thanks very much for your attention. I know it was long, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert and Stephen. Tim, can you bring up the lights a little bit over here?
We'll sort you out in a second. We'll come back to you.
Are you guys going to be sticking? You going to stick around?
Yeah, we're sticking around for a while.
We're going to do the expert panel. Can you be on the panel?
We can be around, yeah.
All right. Real quick before we take a break, I just want to get it, because it's, wow, right? You guys are, we're back there like, oh my gosh. That software, Janae, Peter, myself, we're in the back, we're like, we want it now,
Yeah, cool.
But so I just want to get a feel for you guys, since you guys are mainly ASM5. How many people would want to take advantage of this now within the next month?
Cool.
Okay. Well, I'm ASM5. ASM5 people, not the experts over there. So say it again. Show me again. Okay, so a good portion. All right, which is good.
Yeah.
Because we'll talk. What we'll do is we'll talk. I will get these guys and we'll set it up.
We can do webinars and things like that.
Yeah,
it's
we'll
not a
definitely
problem.
set up a webinar. We'll give everyone a chance to get back home.
Yeah.
Get the kids back to school. So it's a lot of stuff going on next month. But we'll set it up. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But I know that we want to take advantage of this, so we'll get with you guys.
Great.
Aren't you guys are launching the course again?
Yeah. Yes, we are going to be launching it again in September, actually, which is the European course. But the way we do it is we just give everything in one. So we have 2 courses. You actually get for a price one. We also have some other cool stuff. Again, just so you guys know, we just did a legal course on Amazon just recently with our attorney. He's based down in Kentucky. We did a whole course about copyrights and patents and all that kind of stuff. So we can get all that together. Not a problem. We can do
I don't know
that.
what a patent is, but...
Patent?
A patent.
Yeah, a patent. Sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, dude.
Well, I had a great one the other day on a webinar. Actually, I was speaking with a lot of people, obviously from the US and Canada, and I was talking about powered products.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
I was just like, what is that? And every question came in. It was, what is a powered product?
Yeah.
And I went, like a powered product? And I went, powered.
Howard. Yeah, because actually, even in Ireland, it's funny because when I first started working with Robert, I actually moved up to Northern Ireland for a while, and I said something to somebody, I was saying I was going to take a shower, and they were like, a what? A what? And I was like, oh, sorry, it's a shower. So there you go, right? So we have it all the time. We always try to pronounce things as best we can, but it's going to happen.
Several women the name Shar, so that'd be kind of weird.
Shower.
If you're
I'm going to have a shower and take a shower? Yeah, it would be weird.
We'll stop there. You guys appreciate the presentation there? Let's give them a big hand.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
Yeah, cool.